Every teacher needs a philosophy, something they can reference and refer to throughout their career. It may change, but it will always be part of them in their classroom. My philosophy will benefit my students and will keep me true to myself. To understand my philosophy, we will have to understand how I have come to know and love school, learning, and teaching. All the way up until high school, I went to very small schools that were out in the middle of nowhere. I looked up to my teachers, and I loved it when we got to go outside for class, work together in groups, and work individually. Having gone to such small schools, we got more one-on-one attention that I think benefited me in the long run. I remember moving to a town that had a school with more than 100 students, and the way that teachers taught was very different. There was less student involvement and more lectures. They also seemed behind in their teaching. I was ahead of most of my classmates and ended up having teachers tell me that it was okay for me not to do anything since I was ahead of the game. Although not every school may have benefited me to the fullest, I feel every school has led me to where I am today and has helped me understand how I want to teach. I think that all the schools have helped me see the good and the bad through teaching and will ultimately help me develop my philosophy for teaching. As a teacher, I want my students to be able to have learning based on their needs. We should not leave any student behind, whether they are behind or ahead. Students should be able to continuously grow and never be held back to wait for their classmates. With this, I created my philosophy. It's like a tree, the roots being my beliefs or philosophies. The trunk is me as a teacher, and who, what, when, where, and how I teach are the branches. My roots aren't solid. They contain multiple beliefs and philosophies, including Reconstructionism, existentialism, progressivism, and all three of these philosophies are based around the student. They help the student and society develop and change with time. I don't believe fully in just one of them, but more so in a little bit of each of them. Reconstructionism is often thought of as changing society or attacking power structures. In my classroom, I want to implement a community of active engagement and involvement. We won't be taking down the government, but rather changing what we can throughout our classroom and our community. I'll focus more on group work than on lectures and, of course, let students lead discussions. Aspects of existentialism will also be part of my philosophy. Existentialism is based on the student. Teachers teach the whole student. With public education, this is hard, but we can bring parts of it into our classroom, making the classroom engaging with the group work and hands-on activities for each individual. Finally, progressivism will also be implemented into my philosophy. Progressivism, like the rest of, is student-centered. We will work to get students ready for their future and life itself. Students will continually grow and work together to improve on themselves and their knowledge of the world and the subjects within. All three of these ideas make up roots, and as we move up the tree to the trunk, we see that my teaching style will be student-centered. I want my students to be in tune with their learning. I will still teach them through lectures, but I also want students to have flexibility with the way they learn. Experience with topics and group work will help my students succeed and understand topics better than just reading and memorizing a textbook. Our tree has 5 branches, all representing the learning atmosphere I want in my classroom. The first branch is my role as a teacher. The second is the student's role in the classroom. The third is the learning environment. Fourth, curriculum. And the fifth is the way of instructions will work throughout the classroom. As a teacher, my role will be a facilitator of learning. I will help my students with learning and understanding topics. I will promote individual learning and help my students succeed individually and as a group. I won't teach the group, but rather the individual, and will try my best to help every student succeed and get where they need to be. Students will be in charge of their learning and will work together to learn. I will want my classroom to be full of active engagement. Students shall be responsible for their actions in and out of the classroom. Education should be the support all students need to grow into responsible adults, and as a teacher, I hope to be the active participant in that growth. The learning environment I will be aiming for will be a community environment. We will grow together and work together, but we will also grow on our own. We will rely on each other for support, but we know that we are the ones that ultimately keeping us standing. We will look to our peers for support and solve problems together. My school will have a curriculum set forth, but I hope to involve students in social change. Working towards equality, I hope my students will research, analyze, and develop evaluation skills and ultimately discover themselves through my class, whether that be what they want to do in life, their passion, or something that they find interesting. I hope that they are able to do that in my As a teacher, I want to have less lectures and more exploration, experience, and hands-on learning and involvement in my classroom. I will focus on group work and individual work, giving students flexibility with the assignments so that they can choose what they want to work on and learn rather than the teacher just telling them what they are going to learn. When you add the roots, my philosophies and beliefs, my trunk, me as a teacher and how I will teach, and finally the branches representing the teacher, students, learning, and environment, curriculum, and instruction, you'll get a beautiful tree. This tree can grow and change with time, but it will always have its roots, trunk, and branch. Different seasons mean different things for the tree, but it is still the same tree at the center. This beautiful tree we have developed comes from all my experiences throughout school. I've learned what I like and what I don't. Each person, school, teacher, and classmate has helped me develop this tree, and without them, the tree would most likely be very different. And with the new experiences will come a slightly different tree, but it is still the start. The start of my philosophy is the tree representing my values as a teacher right now. I want to focus on the student. Education should have the student in mind and should not just be reading, memorizing, and repeating. As a teacher, I hope to combine existentialism, reconstructionism, and progressivism all together to create a student-centered education for all my students. Once again, it is a start for my philosophy. It starts with my experiences I have already had and will continue to grow with every new experience. And although I do not know my full philosophy yet, I do know that my students and their needs will always come first.